Good day to all of you. I hope everything's going well and you're enjoying the middle of September, and hopefully the weather's nice wherever you are. Those of you who are in the Northwest and getting the snow, you're probably happy where you are, and those of you who are in the Southeast are hoping that they don't get snow, but you know how that goes. Anyway, I hope things are going well for you and you're not too terribly surprised the fact that we're almost at the end of September. Today I've got one of my favorite quotes. I've been thinking about it all day, and so I was thinking about doing something else, but I decided to do this one just because I've been so thinking about it. Leah Craft Christine once made a comment in a book, and I don't remember the name of the book, but the comment was, "You get what you focus on, even if you don't want it." This can be a really profound thing to think about. Let me say it again. You get what you focus on, even if you don't want it. So let me give you an example that comes to mind quite frequently. You get up in the morning, something goes wrong, and you think, oh, this is going to be a lousy day. Something else goes wrong, and oh, I know it's going to be a lousy day. We humans, our brains are constructed such that once you put that idea in your head, you're just going to start doing things to prove yourself right. So you're going to focus on the things that don't go well, so you can prove to yourself that you were right when you said it was going to be a lousy day. Things are going to go well for you during that day, but you're not going to look at them. You're not going to see them at all. You'll just, oh, well, maybe it'll stay lousy if it happens or some such thing like that. You kind of like blow it off and say, well, if I look at it and emphasize it, it'll go lousy anyway because everything's going lousy. So you're starting to look at everything from a negative particular standpoint. Come the end of the day, you'll say, I knew it was going to be a lousy day. Of course it was a lousy day because you focused on it being a lousy day. That's where you put your emphasis. That's where you put your interpretation. You could have just as easily turned around and whatever had started your day that got you into thinking about that and said, oh, gee, this didn't work out. Let's see, how do I turn this day into a better day? Or is there something good about this happening? Is this reminding me of something that I should have done? You could have turned that around or just accepted the fact that something didn't work and stopped that thought right there. Start looking at things about how well the day was going. Okay? Another example. Now, this is going to fit everybody because it depends on where you live and the experience you've been. But if you've ever been in, say, driving in snow or maybe even a slippery road, and even for those of you who haven't done it, give some thought to it and ask people you know who have. As you're driving along and something goes wrong and you're off the road and you see that tree in front of you, invariably what you're going to start thinking is, I'm going to hit the tree. I'm going to hit the tree. I'm going to hit the tree. Yeah, you're going to hit the tree. That's what you're focused on. If you don't want to hit the tree, you have to literally turn your head and look at the road. Because the moment you start looking at the road, your hands will start turning in the direction of where you're looking. You'll go away from the tree. You may not make it to the road. A lot of this depends on when you start turning and when you start looking and all that in the distance. But even if you maybe to possibly hit the tree, it's not going to be like a head-on collision, so to speak. Again, what you're focusing on. If you focus on you're going to hit the tree, you're going to hit the tree. Think about that, okay? So that what I'm saying here is that when you've got something along the line of, oh, my relationship just stinks, my children are so miserable, I've got a lousy job, my boss doesn't like me, I hate this, nothing's going right. You're focusing on the negative. How do you expect anything to change? How do you expect anything to go positive in your life when you're spending so much time and energy focusing on what's going wrong? Does this make sense? If you start to think about it, if you try, you've heard about the pro cons list. If you start making a list and just saying everything that you can think of that's gone wrong in one column and everything you think of going right in the other, you'll probably have a hard time thinking of the things that are going right. But I would strongly suggest you do something like that. In fact, I would probably modify this and just ignore or maybe write down one or two things on the negative, but spend more time thinking on things that are going positive. And look at what you've got going on that's working for you and start focusing on those things. Once you can begin to recognize that, yeah, things don't go well for everybody. They don't go well for everybody all the time. They don't do that for anybody. But when you start focusing on the things that are going well, you actually change your behavior. Again, go back to the incident with the focusing on the tree. If you focus on the tree, you'll hit it. Once you start changing your behavior and turning your head so that you start looking at the road, your behavior is going to change and you're much more likely to not hit the tree than you are to hit the tree. So that your focus essentially determines what you do because you're looking at those particular things. How many of you have ever, say, like driven from home to work, and like obviously lots and lots and lots of times, and then someday maybe you're in the car with somebody else and they're driving and you suddenly see something and it's like, oh, I never saw that before, when that's been there, and they say that's been there for 2 or 3 years and you've never seen it. You've driven by it every time you go to work, but you've never seen it because you haven't focused on it, because you were focusing on whatever it was you were focusing on going to work. How many times have you gotten to work, pulled in the parking lot, turned off the ignition of the car and say, I don't remember driving here, because you weren't focusing on any of that. Instead of looking around at the world around you, you were looking at or thinking at whatever else you were thinking about, and maybe perhaps thoughts about how you didn't want to go to work, the work you had to do, that what didn't you like, you didn't want to face the boss. Odds are you were probably thinking more in terms of all the negative things that were going to happen that day that you didn't want to have happen, or that you knew or you thought were going to have happen. What would happen if you actually started to think about some positive things and gave a positive twist to your behaviors and what you experienced? Things are not going to be gorgeous and beautiful and like the end of a Hollywood movie at the end of 90 minutes. But things are going to end up being less difficult, less stressful, if you can start seeing the positive aspects of that instead of just saying everything is negative. You get what you focus on, even if you don't want it. Where you put your focus is what you're going to get. And if you want to improve your life, your relationships, your grades in school, your job, you need to start thinking in terms of something that's going to be better. Now, granted, you may not like your job. It may be a lousy job and you may want to get out. But if you start focusing on something effective, okay, I'm not happy here. What do I need to do to find a job or find a place or get transferred or whatever? Start putting your emphasis on to making a change to that. So instead of thinking about how unhappy you are and how much you hate your job, start thinking in terms of the good things about how things are going to work out once you make a change, and that you've got control, that you can make those changes. And if you're going to tell me that you don't have control and you can't make those changes, you pretty much just got yourself into a corner, because you do have that control. It depends on what you're going to do and the questions you're going to ask and the people you're going to talk to. So that if you're going to tell me that you can't make any changes, then you basically just might as well just curl up in a corner and die, because if you're not going to be bothered to make the changes, you're not going to change the way you look at it. Nothing's going to change. You're going to be there. The only thing that's going to change is where you put your focus. Okay? Does that make sense? So I'm hoping that you'll probably know 1 or 2 or 3 other people that you could share this with and get some comments and let me know. But start paying attention to where you're putting your focus. If you're going to get ready to yell at somebody, take a deep breath, pause for a minute, and say something positive about them or whatever. If you can't say anything positive at that moment, just don't say the negative. Even saying something effective, the only thing I can think of right now would be really negative, and I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to say anything at all. That's better than yelling and screaming and hollering. But at least you started to change the behavior, and something's going to change because you've changed the dynamic. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know, and send some comments my way and let me know what you'd like to think about it. Which one of the comments that you've liked most, which have been the quotes you like most. I'd appreciate knowing that. All right. You have a good day. Start thinking about positive things or slightly shifting your focus this week, and let me know what's going on. Really be interested. So we'll take care and see you. Bye.